and welcome to my video podcast Cargoflow Talk. In the past, I used to write about topics that move the transport industry in my blog, and today I try something new, a conversation format. My name is Johannes Sommer and I work for more than 25 years in the transport industry, and I will be your host. I'm very pleased to have Michal Silhacek as my guest for the first episode of Cargoflow Talk. Hello, Michal.
Hello, Jonas. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm happy and honored to be the first one.
Thank you. Michal and I, we know each other for many years. Michal, you successfully led IKEA's global transport organization with a huge turnover, since IKEA is a really large company. And I have been the key account manager for many years for IKEA in a big European transport company, LKW Walter. So we will discuss the big topics today that concern our industry. So I would say roughly in the next 30 minutes, we will discuss the societal role of transportation and the developments which we see today and the years ahead. And before we jump into the topics, Michal, could you please tell us a little bit more about you? How did you find your way into transport and logistics?
Yeah, so I will start from the perspective of I'm a happy father of 3 daughters, and by that I fulfill my societal expectations and responsibilities. I have been working for more than 3 decades in different leadership positions in the supply chain of IKEA, mostly in procurement and logistics in many countries. And I spent approximately half of the time in logistics and specifically transportation. And the journey to transportation for me was very unexpected. It was not like a wished direction to go. It was not a wished job to get. It happened, and I followed actually my former manager who was moving from procurement part to the logistical part. And so that has been the person, Klaus Ekman, you might remember the name, who has been actually bringing me into logistics, which I'm very happy for, because that has been, so to say, probably the best move I could have made, because it's a hyper interesting and fast developing arena. So that is a little bit, how I got into that. My last job was for the last 10 years until January this year, the head of land transportation for IKEA, which is a quite big agenda, you can say. Even if the capacities are outsourced, the whole process of procurement, development together with the service providers, operational excellence and so on, it's a job for quite some people around the globe.
So that is crystal clear, and I didn't recall the turnover. What is the annual spend roundabout that you were responsible
You can say
for?
the annual spend which has been handled at the time is no secret, because these are things which have been published. It's around 1.8 billion euro.
Huge. And most of it in Europe or around the
No,
globe?
yeah, you can say the majority of that is in euro, but I will not go into the
No.
details.
No, and this is also not our topic today.
No, because,
Yeah. Mhm. And before we talk about the hot topics, Michal, let's first understand the pressures of the industry that it's facing today. So what is the societal role of transportation, and maybe also where do you see critical constraints nowadays?
It is a very interesting question, and often we take transportation of something simple, available, always there, and so on. But if we go back, you can say transportation is as old as humankind. We needed, or our ancestors needed to carry themselves, because transportation is not only about the freight, it's also about the people. And to separate it makes sense in certain way, and in certain way it doesn't. So it's as old as humankind, and it has been a fundamental enabler of the development of the society. It's not only about the physical or geographical disconnection between production and consumption. It is about creating preconditions for qualitative development of the societies. We have seen it also in the COVID times, how dependent we are on transportation and logistics. That was the time of heroes, the truck drivers are heroes, but after that it has been forgotten again. We are back in actually seeing transportation as something omnipresent, easy, call the truck and fix it. It's not like that. And the things have been changing. There have been multiple steps. We can go back into beginning of 2000-ish, where specifically about Europe, where East European carriers could start doing business in West Europe. We can go into mobility package, we can go into COVID, we can go into the Ukraine, Russia, we can go into many things like that. And we see how important transportation is. No one speaks about transportation or general logistics when the things work, because it seems as normal, as expected. But once the things start going with friction, or sometimes even clog, suddenly it's a lot of discussions related to transportation. So it plays a very important role, if we want or not, if we know or we don't.
As I once heard, a very nice way to phrase it, it's the bloodstream of our economy, the physical bloodstream of our economy. And basically it keeps societies alive, and as you say, we keep it for granted that the blood flows, that cargo flows, and COVID has been a perfect example what happens when there is a standstill. No? So machines were standing still, supermarkets, fortunately, at least in our area, have never been empty, but the supply was then fairly difficult, and so so this is really fundamental, I would say, what we are doing here in transport logistics. I can just underline what you said. And I would also say, and we have seen several constraints also recently, not only COVID when this was massive, those disruptions, but we have those constraints also today. I only think about decarbonization, for example, the sustainability role. That is a huge task, and we need to electrify transport chains on the one hand, or finding alternative fuels. And here, definitely also still see a lot of constraints due to several reasons as well. So that can be, of course, the technology with the batteries, which still need to accelerate to increase the range or whatever. That is for sure one thing. The other big topic is infrastructure. Just to name one example are the German railways nowadays. A huge topic for rail providers and intermodal providers, with all those construction sites and delays and sometimes even cancellations, that is losing competitiveness. And again, we come back to sustainability. Rail is a key pillar in sustainability to achieve a reduction in the carbon footprint. And you named it now already, the truck drivers, the heroes on the roads. This is not something which is there only today. That has been a tendency which has there been for many years, that less and less young professionals start a career as drivers, and consequently the average age of the driver is increasing, and that's of course a demographic time bomb. So there are definitely huge topics in the industry which need to be solved in the years ahead. Yeah.
I agree. And I also believe it depends very much on how we look at those challenges from which perspective. Because sustainability, decarbonization, sustainability has three perspectives: economical, ecological, and social. We cannot separate one from each other because it's only short-term wins.
Mm.
That's one thing. Second thing, infrastructure, drivers, and all these kind of things. Yes, if we look into these topics purely from the transportation perspectives, it will be very difficult to solve it. Once we take it from end-to-end supply chain perspective, suddenly it starts looking differently. Because the lack of drivers in Europe, which is of course fluctuating with the need and so on, because now it's a little bit lower because but there is a lack of drivers. Yeah, but why? One thing is aging and all these natural factors and so on. There used to be a military service in most of the countries, and many young men in the army learned how to drive trucks. Yeah, this is gone, and it might come again. Who knows? But if you consider how much of capacity is stuck in waiting times, just cutting waiting times by 1 hour will most probably solve in Europe the problem with the drivers, yeah, and overall transport capacity. So it's leaving the things purely to transportation. It is very difficult. It's much easier when you look into those topics from the supply chain perspective and see if transportation is integrated into the end-to-end supply chain from the planning and execution perspective, the things look totally different. The problems become complications, and that's totally different ball game to play. So I agree with you, and I also think if we leave everything to carriers, service providers, and leave the rest out from the solutions, it will be painful, lengthy, and who knows if that is even solvable.
I need to say those challenges within the transport industry can only be solved in a good way with all involved parties, and primarily, of course, naturally the transport companies have a key role here, but the shippers are needed to solve problems. Yeah. Yeah. This example which you mentioned about the waiting times, which would solve a huge part of this constraint, is to a good extent also in the hands of the shippers, naturally. So
yes, absolutely.
just to allow time windows, which are then maybe not so strict, and that is a very important message, that collaboration is a way to solve the big topics that cannot be solved by one party.
It starts with the collaboration within the supply chain of one company, or potentially between or among the companies even, and the collaboration with service providers and integrating their service into the end-to-end value chain, in fact.
Yeah, exactly. Although I have to say openly, Michal, about the horizontal collaboration that has limitations. Due to companies are in a competitive situation. You know that very well, of course, from the other side of the table, and there are, of course, very good examples where that can function, especially when companies are finding themselves which have different core businesses, different strengths, and joining forces on a horizontal level can be possible, but I have not seen very many examples during my years. I have to say that as well.
I agree. At the same time, I believe this is one of the main sources which we can use to solve the inefficiencies throughout logistics, not only in transportation, but the inefficiencies are waiting times, empty mileage, empty space, just to make it very, very simple.
Mm.
The collaboration today exists, but it's in a way unaware. When I ship something from Poland to Spain through a carrier, the carrier picks up something in Spain or maybe in France and ships that back to Poland. I don't know about it, I don't care, it's the carrier who is already now integrating different supply chains together and enabling collaboration, even if it is an unaware collaboration. So, if I don't know, so it's a very psychological topic. Transportation itself, in general cargo, consumer goods, 6, 7, 8% of the total cost. Is that really the arena to compete? I don't think that the transportation is a competition arena for the different shippers. It might be different, for example, when you work with very commoditized stuff like liquid chemicals, where the transport cost, logistical cost creates or is a little bit bigger, and you basically deliver commodity more or less the same things from different suppliers, or potentially same things from different suppliers, and there the logistical cost, again, transportation is a part of the logistical cost, it's a part of the setup, how I distribute, how I supply. We should never forget it. I personally believe that there is massive potential for aware collaboration, because that type of collaboration enables the optimization of the costs, emission, social agenda, and all these kind of things. And, I can mention from my previous experience, it is not easy, but it is possible. It is possible to find partners who understand that if we both can decrease the costs, it's not a problem. It's a good thing, isn't it? Yeah, if we both can decrease our emissions and still have a carrier in between who helps us to coordinate the things and so on, it's not a bad thing. We just need to give that the volumes in a certain structured way over the time and these kind of things, and the carrier is taking care of it. We collaborate because we agreed to collaborate. Otherwise, the carrier might be doing it and we would not even be aware of it, but it would be probably more costly for him because we would not have the spread of the volumes. We would not, we as shippers would not know about what the real cost is behind. We might pay a premium for lack of knowledge, as I call it. So I agree with you, it is difficult. Nevertheless, I believe that with digitalization and certain standardization over the period of time which is in front of us, this type of collaboration will be more possible. It will be still happening through the data. We will need to exchange the data. I don't want to share, but let's say exchange the data. And once we actually agree what we can exchange and what we want to exchange and what is needed to exchange, the things will start working on another level of, you can say still indirect or unaware collaboration, but there will be many, many more opportunities than today, because today it's silos, it's individual supply chains, they are not connected. The carriers try to connect it in a way that still there is 30% empty mileage, still there is massive waiting times and waste. So that is the arena which we can handle from the perspective of collaboration.
And this is super exciting, Michal, what you just mentioned, that in IKEA you tried to collaborate, or you collaborated with other shippers to improve inefficiencies within the transport. Could you name an example on which area you worked? I mean, you don't have to say names of the companies, but just to explain maybe a bit the where you worked on. Did you match the different flows? What happened?
It is first about the understanding that if I collaborate and I give and offer something, I will get something back for that. if I knew or if we knew that we cannot build an intermodal setup with our volumes, because specifically talking about intermodal, it's another planning process, it's another type of flow optimization. You cannot triangle train. You can, but it's a different story. But you simply need to get the volumes on certain lane or area to area in different way than for single trucking. So, and since we understood that intermodality, specifically trains, bring multiple advantages, challenges as well, but I stay and I believe in the advantages from social perspective, from a sustainability perspective, additional transport capacity, and so on once you build a new setup, of course. We have actually looked into where are the volumes which we could somehow match with the volumes which we have on certain flows. And we found such companies. Not always we managed to actually go into collaboration, but in cases where we managed, we saved costs, we saved emissions, we solved our social agenda related to the drivers and so on. It's another type of safety and security as well when it comes to intermodal flows, trains versus road and so on. So multiple advantages. This is where we were actually focusing on. It was to increase our intermodal setups as a driver of our actually as one of the key elements of our transport concept. Not so much on can we go in collaboration with somebody to negotiate better prices with LKW Walter or something like that. That we didn't do because of single reason. That is another level of collaboration. That is another level of standardization of the requirements, first of all, and also the possibility to make sure that we stick to what has been asked for and priced for. To stick to that is more difficult once you have this type of big setups than it is with the concrete actually flows and concrete setups specifically on rail, certain area. So there are challenges, but these challenges are not unsolvable once there will be a willingness to kind of standardize the expectations and digitize and digitalize, because we talk about Internet of Things, we talk about artificial intelligence and I don't know what, but we have not digitized even a big part of staying in European logistics. So, you know, we talk about the things while the reality, there is a gap, and that gap is very often leaving us in the comfort zones waiting.
Mm.
Yeah, but
But
you don't have to
this,
wait.
I really like to hear about such examples that horizontal collaboration is possible. I think it requires a big deal of trust between the parties. You are revealing data to other parties. Um, I would assume it is big shippers, but different industries, most likely. And it of course needs the willingness to go in details, because very often you have seasonalities, you have maybe different demands in the equipment. Is it a mega trailer? Is it a standard trailer? Steel industry sometimes requires coil trailers and so on. But I think also that it is worth digging into, because you can really raise a lot of inefficiencies and improve that. Yeah.
And you are
As
right.
it were.
And it doesn't come by itself, because as I said, you need to give something away to get something back. Should the two shippers stick 100%, this is what I want, it will not work.
No.
But if you start going into from what I want to what I really need, it's another story. Do I need that? No, I just want it because in my comfort zone today it works and I don't need to. Yeah? I solve my problems. If I step away from that comfort zone, I need to find solution. But if this solution is still at the end of the day better than the old one, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. But depends on who you talk to, which mandates the people have, how those companies are organized as well. So it is not easy, but it is absolutely possible. Yeah.
And worth trying. Yeah.
Worth.
So I
Oh,
think
yes.
that's the
Yes.
message, and trust is one thing. You said something, stepping out of the comfort zone. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, because that's definitely needed, and being prepared also to make compromises, maybe to do things a little bit differently than today.
And then you need to split the responsibilities as well. Because I have responsibility to provide what I was telling you, maybe up to, let's say, we have up to 80%, whatever, the same from the other shipper. You as a carrier, you have a responsibility to carry out, the things as we agreed. And the part of the agreement was in 1 year or whatever, start bringing other shippers there as well so that we can actually step away from too much constrained setups, etc., etc. So you have that. You need to have a plan. You need to have this agreement, and all three parties need to agree. And actually, the carrier and intermodal operators, or four parties, in fact. Yeah. But it's done today in a very manual way, and it's really business among the people. It's
Yeah.
not driven by data only. It's not driven by AI. No, it's driven by we meet, we have the same opinion, we have the same need, and we have an interest to find a common solution. Without that, doesn't work.
So, to wrap things up, our discussion really showed that collaboration between shippers isn't just a nice idea, it's an enabler for more sustainable and efficient transport networks. When big shippers join forces, it's not about pushing logistic forwarders for lower rates, it's about creating a critical mass needed to make intermodal rail concepts work. For example, to reduce empty kilometers or to build routes that allow drivers to get home at night. Of course, it also means being ready to go in detail, aligning on seasonal patterns, fluctuating volumes, and maybe also different trailer equipment. But if the mindset is right, the benefits are huge. Less CO2, better asset use, and more stable and long-term partnerships, which is beneficial for all parties at the end of the day. Michal, I really enjoyed the conversation with you. I think we shall repeat it on a certain point to discuss other topics which matter in our industry. Thank you very, very much, Michal, for having you and your time and your insights. And have a great day.
Thank you very much, Jonas. It was absolute pleasure to be with you, and I wish you a great day too as well. Bye bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye, Michal.